you are an entrepreneur, a professional, a speaker, or a coach, and although you've come a long way, it's time for you to take it to the next level. We've got you. This is the Author to Authority podcast. We'll help you use authority and influencer marketing to build your business stronger and faster by publishing a book. You'll hear from guests that are thought leaders in sales, marketing, networking, communication, social media, promotion, and business leadership. Let's do it. This is the Author to Authority podcast. And now your host, the extraordinary word ninja, Kim Thompson Pinder.
Welcome to the Author to Authority podcast. And today I'm so excited. I've got a fellow Canadian here with me, Jerry Black. And we're going to talk about why your websites aren't converting. And nowadays, it's almost critical essential as a business to have a website. It's actually a mark against you when you don't have a website. So people throw up a website. But what if you could make your website a lead generation tool or a client getting tool or someplace that people want to come back to? So today we're going to talk about why your website isn't converting visitors into clients. Now, Jerry Black is a B2B online marketing strategist and copywriter. Like I said, he's Canadian based, and he has over 25 years experience of sales and marketing. He loves to work with small business owners, entrepreneurs, and professionals to help them identify the leaks, gaps, and missing elements in their online and offline marketing that is costing them money. His skills and experience were developed in the only environment that matters, in the marketplace, working on real-life challenges small business owners are confronted with. Welcome to the show, Jerry.
Hey, Kim, how are you doing?
I'm awesome. How about you?
Well, I'm well, and it is fun to have two Canadians up on deck here. That's a nice little way to start the day.
You know what? I love every guest I interview, but when I get to interview fellow Canadians, that just adds an extra smile to my face to work with those from my own country.
Especially right after Canada Day.
Yes. Yesterday was Canada Day. I love Canada. It's my favorite place to be.
There you go.
So, Jerry, let's just start with, the really obvious question. And, for me, that obvious question is, why create a website if you don't plan on having it convert? So, can you talk about why people do that?
Yeah, it's a funny little thing. It's a question I've asked or used to ask myself until I finally figured out the answer. And here's what it boils down to. You get into business and everybody knows you need to have a website, right? And so they go get the website and they need traffic. So they'll spend some money on SEO sometimes, maybe sometimes not, or they'll figure out organic ways to get people to the site. But what nobody really thinks about, or often what small business owners don't really think about, is that website is really supposed to be the most cost-efficient salesperson on your team. It's up and running 24 hours. And as you know, and everybody in the audience knows, business is around the clock now. We're doing business all over the world. So anybody at any time can come to your website. People, I think, they put up a website and they put up their website. And the problem that many of the marketers have is they think the website is to sell stuff. So whatever the product is, whatever the service is, they think they throw up a website and basically it's a list of all the stuff they have to sell. And, selling has never changed. Selling is an emotional thing. People, if we just spent our money and bought stuff, we'd all be driving cheap cars and eating Kraft dinner. People, you need to use emotion in your selling story. And people don't understand that mainly because what they'll do is they'll go and see their competitors. And I would say I don't think I'm exaggerating, almost 90 to 95% of the websites out there are basically a carbon copy of a competitor, one of their competitors, because they don't know what to do. Many are fine in face-to-face selling, so they're okay there. But something happens on the way to the interwebs, and marketers get lost. They don't know how to tell their story. So what they do is they mimic what they see. They just put up a bunch of stuff. Most know they need an about page, services, products, and a home page. But the home page really is where the rubber hits the road. If you do not grab, I'm going to throw in a couple of stats in a few minutes here, universal stats. These are not statistics that come from me, but they're real eye openers. And for anybody out there who's not getting a response, I think you're going to understand why in about 5 minutes or so, because there's much more to it than simply saying, hey, pick me, pick me. And that's the fundamental problem. They simply don't know how to sell online.
Well, I do have something to admit to you, Jerry. So might as well get it out now.
Go ahead.
When I was designing my current website, I actually did check out other publishers' websites just because I really did not have a clue of, what different publishers' websites. So there were a few elements. So I didn't copy exact websites, but there was a few elements that I saw on different publishers' websites that I thought, you know what, that really looks professional. It represents what I want RTI to represent. And so I have to admit, okay, I didn't take any wording. All the wording is mine. But some of the visual elements, if you go to the website RTI Publishing, you'll see a banner with a lot of the books that we have done. I saw that on another website. So I got my graphic designer guy to do a version of that with RTI's books. So I have to admit, I have done that, but I didn't just copy and paste. I just did my research to see, what looked professional. And so I've got to admit, I did do that.
I think that's an absolutely acceptable approach, because, at the end of the day, when you're looking at marketers who do what you do, there are some that do it well, some that don't do it so well. So there's nothing wrong with looking at other websites for inspiration. And as you say, you didn't copy the wording, because the wording at the end of the day has to be you, right? You really, when you get right down to it, if you're an author and you, let's say you do podcasts or you're on LinkedIn a lot and everything like that, your website has to sound like you.
Yes.
Otherwise, there's a disconnect and people don't get it. They come to your website and all of a sudden, your website is all corporate speak, and that doesn't sound like Joe, or that doesn't sound like Kim, and that's a real problem, and people don't pay enough attention to that. You're selling yourself as much as you're selling your products and services.
I couldn't agree with you more, and especially because my world is consultants, professionals, speakers, coaches, sort of high level entrepreneurs in the business to business space. You don't want your website to look like everybody else, and it better not sound like everybody else's too. You talked about the voice, right? You don't want this corporate voice. You want your own voice with your own messaging, your own thought leadership, so that, like you said, the website really represents you. So I love that you mentioned that, because not too many people really think about that in terms of creating their website. They just think, okay, well, if this wording works good on this site, I'll just use it for mine. But then you become, in that sort of ocean of oneness where everybody looks the same. And so I loved that you talked about that, Jerry.
Well, that's great. And Kim, I'll say this. Our web visitors are very fickle. And when you think about the internet, it's all about useful information and speed. So here's a question. Like 25 years ago, when there was no internet, people really had to call us to get a brochure or get some cheesy sales pitch on the phone or something like that, because there wasn't this abundance of information. But what many marketers don't think about is often your prospect has visited 7, 8, 9 competitors before they get to you. And if you sound like everybody else, they will click away, and I'll speak in a minute to what you're up against at the first time they land on your site. But if you look like everybody else, they'll go, I've seen this already. I don't really, I'm gone. They won't stick around. So if you take that approach, you do it at your own peril, because all the time, money, and effort you spend, marketing your business and working on your website, it's wasted if that's the approach you take.
I couldn't agree with you more. Jerry, I'm going to let you loose because I know you've prepared all this stuff for us today. And so I want to make sure I give you lots of time to share it, because, I remember the first time that we got on a Zoom call and we started talking, I'm thinking, man, my mind is blown just from the things that you shared. And so I want to give you lots of time to be able to share that with the audience here. And guys, Jerry's got a lot of experience in this. And, when we had sort of met, we decided to do a Zoom coffee chat. And when I was talking to Jerry, I'm like, he's got to be a guest on my show, because the things that you said were just so impactful in terms of, not wasting your website. It's a valuable resource and we tend to forget about it. So I'm going to let you loose. And I'll ask you some questions as we go through.
Okay, that's great, Kim. Yeah, and I'm going to try and sort of articulate this in a way that it's something that your listeners can take away and really take a look at their website and see how they measure up about what I'm going to be with this training today. So there's two statistics very few marketers know about. And web designers and developers and SEO professionals should be telling all of their clients about these two statistics, because it makes all the difference in whether or not you get a return on investment from your site, or your site just sits there like everybody else's. Here's the statistic. And the first one is, as I mentioned earlier, these are not my statistics. If you check these out, you'll find them pretty much restated anywhere you look. So the first one is only 3 to 5%, and it's less than 5%, we'll say, for simplicity's sake. 5% of the people who land on your website for the first time are what we call now buyers. So that is to say, they've kicked the tires, they've looked at all your competitors, and you're going to get one last shot at them. They're going to see if, where do you fit in? But I've already made up my mind. I know the thing that I need to solve my problem. So you've got 5 seconds to really kind of sell the value and tell this person why should they pick you. And Dan Kennedy, a famous marketer, he has a question that every website marketer should think about for the very first thing somebody sees on their site. Here it is. Why, with all of the options available to me, including doing nothing, should I pick you to solve my problem or fulfill my need? Now, when it's put in those terms, you think, boy, if you join the Me Too game, then the viewer is going to come to your website and they're going to go, oh, you have a software accounting package that has this, and this, and 3 different. If you put it in those terms, they're just going to click away, or they'll go for the lowest price. What you want to do is you want to use a headline. The first thing that someone should see when they come to your website is a headline explaining how you're going to change their life. Now, it sounds a little dramatic, but when you think about it, people are coming to your site to solve a problem. And they're not coming to your site because they haven't got anything to do. It's not like people sit around and go, geez, let's go over and look at the RTI website, and we'll call Bob and Millie over and we'll look at that on Saturday night. It doesn't happen. They're there to solve a problem. So what you want to try and do with this headline is use an approach that tells them very succinctly, maybe 9 to 12 words, why their life will be better because of you. And that means that you as a marketer have to sell your unique value. Now, my unique value happens to be that I was a salesperson long before I was a writer. And I learned to be a copywriter later on in life, but I learned how to sell. So I knew how to sell first. So my sort of secret sauce, if you will, for my clients is I'm out to sell their product, and I'll put it in writing, but I'm looking at through a sales lens. Often they don't really spend a whole lot of time thinking of what differentiates them from the other guy or other gal. And that's a big mistake, because everybody else is saying this. It's the same thing on just repetitive. Yeah. Whereas you can sell the special attributes that you have, the special characteristics, and you have to dig for those. But you have to remember, people buy emotionally first, and then they look for logic to back it up. And many marketers, when you look at their homepage particularly, count the times, like if let's say, just anybody, count the number of times you use the words we, our, and us on your homepage. And everywhere you use it, it should be a you, your, and, focused on the reader, because that's who they care about. So that's the number one statistic, is you haven't even got a chance if you don't come up with some reason that grabs the attention of the reader. Just stick around and give you a bit more time. That's all you're trying to do at the front. And that is hard to get.
Jerry, I'm going to stop you there, because let's talk about this a little bit. You say that, and the first thought that came to me, especially since I am a long form writer, like 9 to 12 words. And I mean, I know it's true, but I'm like, seriously, it's like, this is why good copywriters make a lot of money, because they can take everything that you would put in like probably 100 plus words, and they distill it down to 9 or 12. But the truth is that's all the time you've got.
That's it.
You've got to be able to distill it down. And, I mean, sometimes I get the occasional, I am the word ninja. I do get occasional moments of brilliance in terms of short form writing. But, I think about that and I think, wow, like that takes a lot of time and effort. It's not something that you can just slap together. So you think, 9 to 12 words. But you've only got that short space of time to make the hugest amount of impact and grab that attention. So, you talk about this headline, but I think it's one of the most crucial things, because if you don't grab their attention in that first 3 to 5 seconds, they click off.
Yeah.
So, Jerry, can you go into, I know you've got a couple other things, but I made sure we saved a lot of time today. Can you go into just a couple of things, a couple of hints and tips on, how would you craft that headline?
Sure. There's something that, depending on how you've been trained as a copywriter, I was trained by an outfit in the US called AWAI, American Writers and Artists Institute, and they focus on direct response copywriting. So when I say, what that is, but for your readers that aren't quite maybe up on that, this is not the corporate speak and the content writing. This is writing that is designed to get your prospect to take the next step. Okay. So in that headline, we learn, they kind of smack this into you pretty much the whole time during the course. We learned that a headline should be useful. It's called the 4 U's, and I'll probably forget the fourth one. I seem to always forget. Useful, ultra specific, urgent, and I forgot the other one, but I'll come up with it before we're done. So the idea is, when you create this headline, the writer, keeping in mind, the major problem you solve as a business person, what problem you solve. So you want to frame your answer up in that headline in a way that the reader that lands upon it immediately goes, they're reading my mind, because that is the problem that they walk around with all the time until they serve it, until they solve it. And here's a way to think about it. And they literally do. They walk around, I've got to fix this. So when somebody, a marketer, positions it in a headline, they go, oh, this person's reading my mind. And the only job of the headline is to get them to read the next bit of copy. and the next bit. So there's nothing wrong with what you were saying earlier about those 100 words, but you've got to earn the right to get them to invest their time to read them. So you need that copy, but you first need to get them to nod their head and say, I'm going to give Kim a chance. I'll give you an example. This is when we do a headline like this that is useful, urgent, ultra specific. When you do headlines like that, we have something in us called the reticular activating system. And the simple way of understanding what that is if you wanted to buy a Ford Bronco tomorrow, for instance, you might not have seen a Ford Bronco, can't remember ever seeing one, but I guarantee you, if that's what you're looking for and focused on, you will see every Ford Bronco on the street. And that's kind of the way we try and work with the headline. So we're holding up the headline as a potential solution to the reader's problem. And when they see it, they go, that's what I'm looking for. And that's what you're trying to achieve. And it's not as tough as you think. And there's a couple of headline, readers can mark this down, or your viewers, there's a couple of headline analyzers that you can look up online. If you just type Google headline analyzer, there's about, I think there's one called CoSchedule is the name of the company, but it doesn't really matter.
I've used it.
Okay, so what'll happen is you'll put your headline in, and then it'll come back and it'll tell you how the headline is for emotionally. It'll give you the emotional quotient of it, and if you've used it, you know. But it gives you feedback, and you can use it to make your headlines better and better. But the main thing is to focus on what makes you different than the other guy, and that's the way you get their attention. Because once you do that, so few of your competitors do it that you've got an invitation now to tell them more.
So two things there, Jerry, and then I'll let you get on to point two. You talked about the Ford Bronco. Well, we just bought a black Nissan. Well, we leased a black Nissan Rogue. And the first day I'm driving this, all of a sudden I realized how many other black, you never notice. I always notice the beige Dodge Caravans because that's my car. But now I'm like, man, black. And then I'm thinking, yep, it's because we bought a black car. Now I'm noticing all of the black cars.
Exactly.
But I actually have used CoSchedule.
Yeah.
And I am so competitive. I see like a 75, which is already pretty decent. I'm like, I got to get it up to like 85 or 90. And so I'm sitting there, and you're typing out all these other words and variations, and you're trying to squeeze out that, one more number. It's like, can I get to like 89? Can I get to 90?
Or the worst is if you change one word, you go down to 61.
Right? I know, I've done that too.
You change one word. Quite interesting.
So, Jerry, I know you have point number 2 you wanted to tell us about.
Well, statistic number 2 is really comes down to, okay, so let's say Kim has come to my website. I've got her interested. She says, this guy looks like he might know what he's doing. I'll give him a bit more time. The next step or the next statistic you got to remember about is it takes anywhere from 5 to 12 touches before someone is ready to buy. Now, that's not everybody, but generally, those could be emails. They could be watching one of your videos. They could be a number of ways, a number of different elements. But here's why this is so important. So first of all, very small amount are ready to buy when they come to your site. And if they do put up their hand and say, hey, I'm a potential prospect, you still got to work very hard, but in an organized way to get them to buy. And what's going on during those 5 to 12 touches, whether it's email, whether it's video, whatever it happens to be, is they are getting to know, like, and trust you. And that's where we all have to be before we're going to go pull out the plastic, right? You have to know. And in this day and age, a big mistake a lot of marketers make, they don't put any physical address on their website. And everybody knows the stories about these people that, operate out the back of a semi and, they don't even have a location or anything like that. So you are really fighting to get people to see you as a real person Hence why it's important to use your own voice and be yourself, because that's who people buy from, real people. You want to get them to feel you are competent to help them. So you need social proof that shows other people have used your service or bought your product and benefited. And a lot of people make a mistake here because they put testimonials on there. It's like Billy from Saskatoon. Saskatoon's in Canada out there for anybody that Billy from Saskatoon. But if there's no way to check that that's legitimate, our prospects, they're on unbelieving anyway. And so you need to put up a way that they could actually contact that person. I do it on my site. I can't remember ever having anybody on my testimonials ever call me and say, guess what? Somebody called me. It's the fact that you could call. So the logic is on the part of the reader, they wouldn't put that up there if, because they know I could call them and see if they're telling the truth. So It's all about those 5 to 12 touches, all about building credibility, competency, likability until they're ready. And that takes about those 5 to 12 touches. And this kind of leads into sort of a little system I can give your viewers that they can convert more visitors to their website if they use the following system. Do you want me just to give an overview of it?
You got about 5 minutes.
Okay. So first thing is, we've already talked. Step 1 is get their attention. We already talked about that. Number 2 is transformation. You have to have them seeing themselves the benefits of your product. So those 2 we covered off. The third thing is you need to use what we call a lead magnet on your site. And as you know, that's a free offer of a report, a checklist, could be anything like that. But it should solve an immediate problem for the reader. But what it's really doing, it's getting the reader to put up their hand and exchange their email address for it.
Yes.
And once you have that, you can continue marketing to them, right? So you want to deliver value in that and make sure that you help them, and you're really selling yourself. You're allowing them to have a free test drive. And that's really, really important. So now you've got a way to market them. Then you create an email welcome/nurture campaign. And that's what closes the sale for you, is because those are a combination of educational emails at 80%, education, 20% soft sell. Hey, do you want to sit down and have a meeting? Whatever. But all this time, you're getting a chance to show them you're the real deal. So that's the system. And if you check your own marketing, like people out there, if you check your own marketing, have a way to get attention, have a way to get them to give you their email address, and have a way to follow up. And for those out there that aren't familiar with the autoresponders, this is so easy. All you do is put their name in the system. Everything is done automatically, and it's painless. And you can see who's listening to you or who's clicking on your articles or whatever they happen to be. And that's it. And that's really, you'll be so far ahead of your competitors with that simple system in place. They won't know, they won't figure out what you're doing.
Love it, Jerry. Love it. Love it. Oh, we're just about out of time. I'm not sure we're going to have time to really cover your book, but I'd like for you to just give like a 1 minute, share the name of your book and just maybe 1 minute about what it's about. And then I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay. Well, we kind of covered the book in a way. That book was written quite some time ago. And I wrote that book to basically explain to people the thinking behind online marketing. So really the book is, I still use it from time to time. I'm not like many of your audience. I don't actively use that. I use all of the content in it, but I don't actively market it. It's a bit dated, but it basically, and if anybody was interested, I can certainly send you a link to an online version. They can get a copy of it. But the main thing is, it basically is just called Convert Lookers into Clients. And it basically walks people really from the beginning to the end in how to move them through the system. It's got more detail than this, but it basically is a client attraction and conversion system.
Ooh, okay, you ready for the question, Jerry?
I think so.
Okay, I have to be a quick answer because we're running out of time.
Okay.
What was the good, the bad, and the ugly about writing, editing, and publishing that book?
I think the good was it really allowed me to get all my ideas out in organized fashion. So sometimes you think about these things and you're not as organized as you'd like to be. The bad was took longer than I thought it was going to. No surprise there. I can see a phase of experience there. And the ugly was I never really took it to where it was done 10 years ago. I never really developed it to where it could have gone. I was more interested in working with the clients and helping the clients achieve business success. So I never really I wrote it always as a kind of a training material than anything like that. So it wasn't really ugly. It just didn't make me $750,000, which I kind of had chiseled in there as a number I was shooting at, but didn't quite happen that way.
I love your honesty, Jerry. So we have time for you to give us a final thought, and I know that you'd have something that you'd like to give to the audience.
Well, I do have a free report. It's called 7 Strategies to Start Converting More Web Visitors into Sales. And we covered a couple of the things in here, but there's about 4 or 5 other ones in the report. So this is a free report, and it's not going to take you long to get through, but you will get, there are 7 defined strategies in there anybody can use. This is not designed to kind of, how do I figure this out? This is just straight forward things you can do. And you don't have to do them all, but they're all important. So you want to be working towards doing them all. So I think you put a link, popped a link up into the note somewhere, but that people can download it. So all you have to do is throw your name in there. You'll get a confirmation email that just says, hey, did you request this? And click that and you'll have the report in your hands in seconds.
Love it, Jerry. Love it. Love it. Oh, we are out of time, but thank you, Jerry. I want to have you back again because I think we'll need to continue this conversation. I think there's more depth than we had time to go into today, but I really appreciate you coming on and just honored that you were willing just to share so freely with us from your knowledge today.
Well, it was fun being with you, Kim. I look forward to coming back.
We will have you back. Audience, where do you go next? Well, I want to direct you to episode 485, How to Start and Grow Your Email List. So that will supplement what you learned today. And if you're on YouTube, you know the routine. My daughter has placed the thumbnail here on the screen for you to click. If you're on your favorite podcast app, you're either going to want to search it or you're going to be using your finger to scan back quite a bit, but I promise you it's another great episode. So thanks so much for listening, and we will see you on the very next episode. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Author to Authority podcast. The extraordinary word ninja, Kim Thompson Pinder, has helped over 200 entrepreneurs, professionals, speakers, and coaches write and publish their books that have become incredible marketing tools for their business. And many of those have gone on to become Amazon best-selling authors and have used their books to land high-level clients and get on big stages. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hit the website at www.authortoauthoritypodcast.com. See you next time.